Hello and welcome back to the ARAH channel here on YouTube. It's the G.I. Joe Real American Hero Costume Club. I'm your host and I'm your founder, Wild Bill. In this video series, we are talking about elections. This is Article 5, elections. In the last video, we discussed the positions and the voting protocols, and now we're going to get into should it happen, tie-breaking protocols, what we're going to do with tiebreakers and election concerns. And I'll briefly explain that. Okay. So for tie-breaking protocols, if you read the charter, it actually has an asterisk next to when I said, tie-breaking. So, just as asterisk on the election schedule, again, if you were reading this document, the protocol is only in place should there be a tie at the conclusion of an election. In the event that there is a tie, the poll will be reopened for an additional 3 days to ensure that any votes that haven't been cast may be counted to break said tie. In the event there is an unbreakable tie, the top brass will convene for 3 days and vote on the new leadership position. Okay, so that's what I kind of meant by the top brass. That'd be like from the 27th through the 30th, or excuse me, 27th through the 29th. So it's like having a hung jury, right? So the General Assembly has elected, or they have voted, and they're split down the middle. All right, they're split down the middle as to who they want for their sector commanding officer. And it goes down to, you had several people, but there was two people that had, they were tied neck and neck. All right, so then what we do is we do a tie-breaking runoff election just between those two. So the General Assembly is free to go back and vote again, but they can only vote for these two people, right? And again, if we were still deadlocked into a tie at the end of that, then it's going to go over to top brass, and top brass, obviously, they're gonna convene a special tactical session, a tactical briefing session. They're gonna have to convene one, and then they are going to be the ones who vote on the next chapter CO. Mind you, this is the same policy for team leader elections as well. That's the only fair way to do it. So one thing that I think I neglected to mention is that elections, so terms are for 1 year only, right? So given if it's January 1st to December 31st, so that whole year, right? The CO is the CO for that whole year unless they're kicked out for, some conduct unbecoming. But, we'll get that into when we talk about code of conduct stuff and disciplinary stuff. But it's 1 year, okay? That person, the current CO, and whether it's team leader or sector command officer, they have the option to run for re-election once. There are term limits in this club. There are term limits in this charter. However, they are not lifelong term limits because, well, that'd be stupid, especially when currently right now we only have 38 members, right? So obviously people are going to have to cycle around, right? So it's just like, and I'll use my home state as an example, Oregon. In the state of Oregon, the governor has a term limit of 2 terms, right? He or she can only be governor for 2 terms. However, once that second term is done, they are, completed, they are done. They cannot run for another re-election. However, what they can do, they can sit out, another term or 2, and then they can always come back and run again should they so choose to. Anyone who understands my state knows that we actually had a governor here in this um, um, past 20 years did that very same thing. I mean, I'm not going to name drop the governor, but I mean, he did his 8 years. He skipped 8 years. He came back for another term, and then he quit. And but I mean, that was completely above board, and that's kind of what I have going on here. Is that um, say oh, I'm going to use Devery. Okay. Say Devery decided he wanted to vacate his position as personnel officer and he wanted to run for Club CO. He wins Club CO. He's CO for that whole year. He wants to do it again. He runs for re-election, gets it again, right? So now at the end of that session, right, he can't run anymore, nor can he be appointed as the executive officer, because then we're running into, well, what happens if that new CO gets bumped out due to disciplinary action and we have to put the XO in the CO position? Can't do it. He's ineligible. But what he could do is he could sit out a year, and then he would be eligible to be an XO, or he could simply run for the CO position and then go repeat the process. That's fine. That is completely okay. But I have term limits in place for a reason. The reason being is, like, in my time in the 501st, I saw this very thing happen where no term limits. COs just kept running and running and running, and burnout occurred. And then they got set in their ways. And then any time that someone new came in and said, I have an idea for this, and this, they were shot down and they were discarded. And it kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. So that is why there are term limits in place, because of what I've experienced there. So election concerns. Should there be any concern about the election, members are encouraged to voice their concerns. If someone suspects any sort of protocol violation, they should bring the matter directly to the Sector Command First Sergeant. Sector Command First Sergeant will launch an immediate investigation to determine the validity of the concerns. If there's any validity to those concerns, the Sector Command First Sergeant will take the appropriate steps to initiate the charge of conduct unbecoming to any individual that is found to have engaged in misconduct, i.e., election tampering. Obviously, if anyone issues a false statement or engages in misconduct of their own in retaliation for their candidate not winning the election, appropriate action will be taken for that as well. Again, we don't campaign, we don't politic, and not even behind the scenes. I'm talking like, don't go private messaging all your friends, hey, vote for me because that guy's blah, 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 blah. Again, I put that in here too, because that actually happened to me in one of the clubs that I belong to. There was some backdoor politicking, and I didn't find out about it until a year after I left that club, and there was nothing I can do about it. That individual was not, he just didn't want me to be the CO, and so he actively campaigned for the lesser of the three evils, I suppose, and was private messaging folks saying, don't elect Bill because Bill's going to run us into the ground, blah, blah, blah. That's that kind of stuff. If I hear about that, that's election tampering, and the person doing that is going to be brought up on charges of conduct unbecoming of a Joe. Okay. To be clear, if the election concerns are genuine, voice them. Leveling charges of conduct unbecoming a Joe should never be taken lightly. Anyone with concerns should be prepared to document their concerns and present their evidence to the Sector Command First Sergeant. Concerns regarding the conduct of the Sector Command First Sergeant shall be brought to the attention of the Sector Command Officer. Further information on conduct unbecoming of a Joe will be detailed in Article 6, Code of Conduct, and Article 9, Disciplinary Actions section of this charter. So I think what I was getting there, if anyone had concerns about the conduct of the Sector Command First Sergeant, if they thought that they weren't doing their job appropriately, or they were part of the problem, then they should report that to the Club CO, who then is probably going to report it to me, and then we're going to have a little chat with the sector command first sergeant. I mean, I'm speaking hypothetically here, because our current sector command first sergeant, I don't think he'd do any of this crap, because he's a stand-up solid guy. But the point is, and that is said true with any top brass officer. If you feel that any top brass officer is interfering with the election, you go to the next chain, the next person in that chain of command, and they bring it up accordingly. Because I really don't want to step on anybody's toes, but I mean, I've always said that I have an open door policy, and you can always come to me if you have any concerns. But I would really like for people to observe the chain of command and go to their chain first before they come to me. Because as founder, I'm supposed to be the appellate judge, not the judge on the military tribunal. I'm certainly not supposed to be the prosecutor, even though I had the one time that we did have that we did ban someone, that we did have a military court martial. I was the prosecutor because the problem was brought to me. And so I handled it, and then I had to seek out what little top brass officers we had, plus those from the General Assembly, to serve on the tribunal against this individual. The buck did stop with me, and in that case, I told them that they had a year to clean up. They could be on probation for a year if they just simply correct the behavior, and they chose not to, so we permanently banned them. But I'm rabbit trailing here. That's it in a nutshell. That is elections. Elections are very important to the flow of this club. I have done everything I could to pattern this club to be as much of a constitutional republic, as it were. We live in a nation where we're supposed to be a citizen government. And it's really said true here, is that I want our club members to have an active participation in our club. And so that means, offices, top brass offices, they're open for anybody. I mean, this organization is of the club, by the club, and for the club. So, please, if you were ever interested in holding a position, let your voice be heard. Step up. I mean, I need the help. I'll just put it out there. I need people that are willing to step up and help run this club. I can't do it all, and I shouldn't be doing it all. But that's the election process. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, I forgot to do this in the last video, but by now, if you've been going through all these videos and you've come to this video, you know what I'm about to say. You know that, like, any comments, questions, concerns, drop them in the comment section. I don't hardly get any comments, and so I don't know if I'm even, doing how I'm doing on these videos. I mean, I'm trying to be informative, and I'm trying to, just get the information out there. So please critique me, and constructive criticism is always welcome. So thank you for your time. That concludes Article 5, elections. Next video series is going to be Article 6, Code of Conduct. And that's going to be fairly lengthy, so I imagine it's going to be quite a few. Well, maybe not. I might be able to get that in one video, but that will be here in the future. So the next video series is going to be the Code of Conduct, and this has been elections. So thank you for tuning in. As always, I am your founder. I am your host here, Wild Bill. I'm signing off by saying, Yo Joe, Cobra, knowing is half the battle, and we will talk to you soon. All right? Have a good one. Bye.